Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ben Arnott, and I'd like to welcome you to the Smoking Hot Confessions podcast, Australia's first barbecue podcast. This is episode 7 of a series that I like to call Comp Ready, where I interview Australia's best pitmasters, builders, butchers, and suppliers to help you be comp ready. Please be sure to subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and share it around to spread the love. If you're into competition barbecue, you might be interested in my free ebook, 27 Lessons Learned from Competition Barbecue. I've drawn on my experience as both competitor and judge to offer you exclusive inside knowledge to help you make the most of your competition experience. Head to smokinghotconfessions.com/comp-ready to get your copy now. There's also a link in the description. With me today is Mr. Rohan Peterson from Ro'N'Slow BBQ, or as I like to call him, the Thunder from down, down, down under, as he hails all the way from sunny, warm Tasmania. The Rohans BBQ team competes on the mainland, and if I was interested in teasing him, I'd say that this makes him one of Australia's few international competition barbecue teams. But that's not what we're here for today. Today, Rohan is here to talk to us about teams and teamwork, quite possibly one of the most important topics in this series. Check it out.
This is the Smoking Hot Confessions podcast with barbecue pitmaster Ben Arnott. How long's it been since your last confession?
Welcome to the confessional, Rohan. First things first, what's the last thing that you barbecued?
Chicken. We just come from the Scottsdale show. We've been trying to get a bit of traction as far as low and slow competitions in Tasmania. And not really good. I think it's quite popular in Hobart, not so much up around the northern part of Tasmania. So, when we approached them, they were, we don't understand what you want to do. You want to get 10 guys come out here, camp out overnight and cook barbecue and on wood-fired barbecues. And then they basically came back and said, look, if you want to come out here and do like a demo, the committee members can talk to you and see how it works, et cetera, we can talk about it. And at the same time, it'd be good to get feedback from the patrons to see, what they think about it. So, I said, yeah, all right, fair enough, no worries. So we were down there for 2 days, giving away free chicken, basically. So, the show gave us a load of chicken. We were just down there on the offset, churning out chicken wings and drumsticks.
Sounds awesome. And have they got back to you with a decision yet?
Oh, it's all a committee process. So, and the event's not going to be for another year, like this time, 2017. So, the reality is there's a lot of time there, but it's also good because, like as I was saying, in Hobart, they seem to be getting a bit of traction down there. Obviously, Jeff from the Tickle Rib has got a competition going in Signet. So that's good, but they've got a bit more traction down there seemingly. But up north, it's kind of the same old. Like in Launceston, there's only kind of one barbecue joint, really. And and then as you head along the coast, sort of towards the west coast, there's not really much anything going on there. So I guess it's like a small population spread out over a reasonably large area. So getting the word around is difficult, but it is what it is, Like it's always good fun watching people try smoked chicken for the first time going, wow. So, yeah, I'm happy to do it.
For the listeners out there, can you give us an idea of where you are geographically at the moment?
Oh, that's tough. In the middle of nowhere? Is that easy? We live in a place called Mangana, which is, I guess the easiest way to describe it would be for people who sort of have travelled, say, Launceston to Bicheno, something like that. You sort of pass through a town called Fingal, which is approximately halfway, I guess, from Launceston to Bicheno. And about sort of 20K outside of that is where we live. Yeah. So yeah, as I was saying earlier, our nearest neighbour is approximately 25 kilometres away. So we actually live in the middle of nowhere. The town Mangana itself has a population, I think, of about 25.
25 people.
And Fingal, I think that's approximately correct. And Fingal, about 250 there or thereabouts.
Oh, wow. So how many kilometres are you away from, say, Launceston? I'm assuming Launceston would be your closest city?
Yeah, about, I think about 160 odd.
Wow. All right. So there's something I have to know. Your team name is Ro'N'Slow, and I know that your brother is in your team. So obviously you're the Ro. Does that make him the Slow?
Most of the time. Yeah, no, it's just a play on words. Obviously the cooking style is low and slow. So my little brother did actually come up with it. He was just on the phone before we were going to the Creekside comp last year, and he was saying, "Oh, what are you doing about the team name?" And I said, "Oh, mate, that's the least of my worries for now." And he said, "What about Ro'N'Slow? Because you're Rohan, and it's a good play on words for low and slow." And I just went, "Yeah, that'll do, mate. That's good." And we just kind of stuck with it. Yeah, so it's good, but it's people just go, "What?" It would be something that was instantly recognisable, but it doesn't really matter. It's just a barbecue team name for us, anyway. So yeah, but he sort of chimes in. He sort of chimes in with barbecue competitions where he can and helps out and that. But he's not overly interested in barbecue and the process yet. He likes to eat it, but in saying that, he's just more interested in being part of the team and, mucking in with the setting up and packing up and all that kind of stuff, really. And, yeah, I have made him actually prep some pork shoulders at competitions before. So, and he's actually quite good at it because he's quite meticulous. So yeah, he does quite a good job, really. But in saying that, yeah, he's just dragging him along for the hell of it. So that's how it works. Yeah, that's how the name came about.
Awesome. Now, most teams build a reputation as competitors and then use that reputation to drive business to a catering or bricks and mortar gig. But you've actually done it the other way around. You've started a business to support your barbecue team. Can you tell us how this came about and how the setup works?
Yeah, it's not really a business. It's in Fingal, which is, as we were just saying, was the population of 250 people. So it came about because a friend of ours in Fingal, he had a cafe basically that wasn't being used, and he just gave it to us dirt cheap and said, "Just use it." And I said, "Yeah, fair enough." And so the reason for doing that was because essentially, like in competitions, trying to establish certain sort of flavour profiles, as a new team as such, you kind of scratch your head because obviously, well, seemingly there's regional sort of flavour profiles that suit better. And from what I've sort of learned, that seems to be the way forward, at any rate. But in saying that, the barbecue joint really just came about as a way to experiment, create, get feedback from people. If you're giving free barbecue away, everyone says it's wonderful. Of course they do, But if people are actually paying for it, well, they're going to give you honest feedback. So yeah, it's been a good little vehicle also to promote low and slow, in our area. So by way of actually the so-called business, we've actually conned a few people into having a barbecue team. So so slowly but surely, yeah, it's worked quite well. The purpose was actually just to sort of create, like let's say for beef, for example, and you do it at home. So you go out and buy a brisket and you spend maybe $80, something like that on your brisket, and you try this new rub, right? You try it on that rub and you spend 8 to 10 hours cooking that brisket and you're not quite happy with the rub. So if you're at home, what do? You don't go out the next day and spend another $80 on another brisket, tweak the rub, spend another 10 hours and cook it. And what if you should decide at that point that you're not happy? It's just a constant process. Whereas at the shop, we can try a rub, stick it on the beef, sell it, get feedback, try it, and then tweak it the next day, and that I would think was a good beef rub. The purpose of the shop was, as I was saying, was to create, flavour profiles we know are going to be successful. And if you're doing that at home, it's difficult. It might be a sort of 3-month process because you're just not cooking that much, that often. Whereas at the shop, you're knocking out briskets, would only open over the weekend, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So on a Friday, I can make a new beef rub, try it out. If I don't like it, tweak it, try it again on Saturday. If I'm still unhappy with it, I can perfect it by Sunday and have a perfect barbecue rub for beef that I'm happy with. Whereas if I was to do that at home, that'd probably be a process of 6 weeks, something like that, because I just wouldn't be viable to go out and buy, a brisket, like $240 worth of brisket and spend $30. So yeah, that's the point of the shop. It's we don't make money. That's for sure. And and I'd rather just see people eating good quality barbecue and spreading the word around Tasmania. And I guess there is a little bit of a selfish motivation there, because the more popular the movement gets here, it means that there is more competitions here, and it means that I don't have to spend thousands of dollars crossing that stretch of water to get to competition.
Yeah, well,
if that happens, a win-win.
Yeah, for sure, yeah. That actually leads me up to my next question there. So my understanding is that there's yet to be a sanctioned competition in Tasmania. Have I got that right?
Yeah, so far, yeah.
Right. So so you've got to come across to the mainland if you want to compete in a sanctioned comp. And so when I think about you coming to the mainland, I imagine an offset with some pontoons and an outrigger strapped to it and a bed sheet on a broomstick stuck down the chimney for a sail. So what's involved in getting all your gear across the ditch?
It's basically packing up the ute, driving to Devonport, getting on the boat overnight, driving to the comp and competing, and then reverse. But that's kind of the bullet point process of it. But in reality, it's a logistical nightmare, because if you take a trailer, it becomes massively expensive. So we try and pack up a couple of offsets on the back of the dual cab ute normally. And then you've got height limitations with getting on the boat. So 9 times out of 10, you've probably got to take your stacks off just to get under the 2.1 meters. And it's crazy, man. Getting across there really. And the boat is harsh. Like I personally don't like it, and and it's expensive. So. Yeah, but what do you do, mate? Like, it's the only way of getting across the water, and I think it's just ridiculous, the expense of it. But hey, it is what it is. But yeah, not quite offset with pontoons and a sail. But it's called the Spirit of Tasmania, unfortunately. So, but yeah, no, it's definitely tough. But in saying that, I think it's fair to say that anyone who's competed in a barbecue competition understands and knows that, it's a logistical nightmare. Doesn't matter where you're going, where you're coming from, what you're doing. There's a lot of planning involved, and you got to make sure you've got all the standard equipment to compete. So yeah, I think, fair enough, we make the effort, but in saying that, I don't think it's any more effort than other teams make in reality. Some dudes drive 4 days. Boyd from Sandgroper in WA, he drove 4 days across the Nullarbor to get to Creekside. That's an effort.
Yeah, that's true. The Nullarbor is a bit of a harsh trip from what I've heard. So, what's the furthest you've travelled for a comp, and how much did that set you back?
Well, the furthest I've actually travelled would have been Port Mac. But in saying that, I wasn't actually competing as Ro'N'Slow there. I was just helping out a mate. And and we just kind of flew up there, so that wasn't too expensive that time around. I think all in all, the most expensive potentially would have been Camber, back in December because, the additional fuel cost of getting, an overloaded double cab ute from Melbourne to Canberra. And to top it all off, about 2 hours outside of Canberra, we blew a radiator hose.
Ooh.
So, so had to spend, the money to get it fixed on the spot. So that made it more expensive. And because it was my ute, you kind of had to absorb the cost of that. You can't really put that on the fellas, can you?
Mm.
So, But, Canberra would have been the most expensive and the furthest would have been Port Macquarie. Yeah.
All right. And how did you go at the Canberra comp?
Yeah, not too bad. I was actually thinking about results and stuff and why we haven't sort of had any good results. And, and it's kind of interesting because you've got to put it all together on the day. And interesting about the team questions as well that you had. And I was definitely thinking that, if the team gels and all comes together and everyone does what they're supposed to do, you can definitely get results. But, I guess it's the old saying, you're only as strong as your weakest link, chain. Yeah. But, we eked out first in lamb at Canberra, which wasn't too bad. And fourth on, I think we were fourth, in beef. And they had a little a side challenge, which was roux backstraps they chucked at us. And I think we came second on them or something like that. So Camber was probably one of our best comps, but interesting variables. We were cooking on a Texas Pro pit. Mm-hmm. And kind of had to figure out how that worked and the tuning plates and the little idiosyncrasies of the offset itself. And as usual, got greedy and stacked it full of meat, So I think we did 2 briskets, 2 shoulders, actually ribs and 4 cutlets and just bananas. So it was just jam-packed full. So, it was a bit of hard work, but, that's what I was saying before, it's just about coming together on the day and getting it all right. And certainly if you have a well-oiled team, it goes a long way to making that happen. So, yeah.
Yeah, you've mentioned the cost of the Spirit of Tasmania. What does it cost you to bring all your gear across the channel and back?
Well, we just did Creekside, and I got a quote to take the car, the trailer, and effectively, 4 of us returned because I did Creekside with the family, and it was $1,800 return.
Wow, so that's $1,800 before you even hit the mainland.
Yeah, that's pretty much, yeah.
That's a big commitment. I think it's pretty fair to say that if you're travelling back and forth across the ditch to compete, I'm just going to throw it out there and say that you're perhaps the most committed team in Australia. So what is it about barbecue that makes you so wildly committed to it?
I think, the barbecue competitions itself, I like doing them because in reality here I don't really have anyone to sort of bounce off with regard to barbecue, especially at the skill level of the barbecue competition guys. Mm. So for me really, it's not so much about winning or losing. Clearly, we don't win too much, fair enough, whatever. But then again, we don't lose. We have ups and downs, whatever, but we're always sort of midstream. And in saying that, it's just one of those things, really. To be the best, you've got to beat the best. And, the best aren't in Tasmania, mate. That's all there is to it. So to get better and perfect the craft as such, who better to bounce off than Australia's best barbecuers? So I wouldn't say we were the most committed team, though, mate. There's, as I was saying before, teams make huge efforts. I remember Creekside last year, the Boulevard Barbecue crew, they drove down from Queensland to Creekside, 4 days. That's a huge effort. And as I said before, Boyd across the Marlborough, again, that was probably a better part of 3.5, 4 days, I guess. So I think everyone who competes in competition barbecue in Australia makes a huge commitment to do it, because it is like a tough thing to do, to get there, set up, cook whatever 5-6 proteins in the space of 18 hours, to a very, very high level. And obviously then, pack up as well as socialise, interact with the public, answer questions about low and slow, all that kind of stuff, deal with the variables of, being in the location, what the weather's doing at that point in time, massive commitment. So I think realistically everyone on the circuit who does compete, they know how tough it is. And okay, whatever, we may spend a little bit more than other teams, but, like I don't play golf and, I don't do that kind of stuff. So you got to have a hobby in life. So, like having a hobby absorbs money. I'm happy for it to be barbecue.
Yeah, my wife wishes I'd take up a less expensive hobby like, raising racehorses or something.
Yeah, exactly. Well, my wife's a vegetarian. So do you think she understands what I do?
Oh.
Yeah. The two girls are as well. My 2 daughters.
Right. So you really don't get much feedback then. You're pretty
not on the meat.
Just cooking barbecue for yourself out there.
Just the meat, yeah. But I also smoke up all sorts of vegetables for them, and do damper and that on the smoker as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they love all that stuff. Well, I've smoked tofu as well, by the way.
Oh, tofu. Yep. What was the other one? Did you say? Did you say marrow?
Marrow.
Okay.
Yeah, I smoked up some marrow, which normally I find highly offensive, but it was actually quite nice from the offset. So yeah, but that and tofu are probably the strengths as far as vegetarian dishes go. So, but everything, I find a lot of things actually smoke up well. A lot of vegetables smoke up well. It's just having a go, really. Like the old portobello mushroom, they love that. Actually, my wife stole my lamb marinade, and she dresses the which is meat free, but she dresses the portobello mushrooms in the lamb marinade and smoke them up. She really likes them. So,
that's a nice idea.
What was that? Sorry.
I just said that's a really nice idea.
Yeah. So it's not always, just meat. Fair enough for me it is. But if I was to have my choice, I'd probably be cooking beef most of the time anyway. I really like beef. That's my weakness.
There's definitely some worse weaknesses to have, mate.
True. Tell that to my waistline.
You're listening to the Smoking Hot Confessions podcast with barbecue pitmaster Ben Arnott.
Alrighty, so what we're here to talk about today with you, Rohan, is teams and teamwork. We're going to get some insights into how a team should be put together, how you put your team together, how it works, and your thoughts and ideas on that. So first cab off the rank is, how many team members do you have and what are their backgrounds?
At the moment, I've actually changed it up. I've gone to the old husband and wife format. And, that's predominantly because leaving the kids behind was problematic, realistically. At the comp we did in January, I had the old three-year-old on the phone crying, come home, Dad, this, that, and the other. And I kind of thought, well, look, in reality, if the other guys want to, sort themselves out a team, then they can, So I kind of disbanded the original team, and now it's just husband and wife. So, we just did Creekside as a husband and wife, and let me tell you, having your kids around is probably more problematic than having drunken teammates around. That's for sure. So,
they do tend to wander off, don't they?
Yeah, well, about 10 minutes to, I think it was rib hand in at Creekside, the 3-year-old daughter insisted I take her to the toilet. I tried to palm her off to her mum. No. Tried to palm her off to the grandmother. No. So there's me running my daughter to the toilet. with 10 minutes to go to hand in, running back and then boxing up ribs, obviously washing my hands and boxing up ribs and getting it back. So, yeah, so it was pretty crazy. But, originally there was 4 of us.
Yeah, my son loves to come to the competitions as well, and I've got to really keep an eye on him because he'll grab a stack of business cards and just start wandering off through the crowd. And he's only 4 years old, and he walks up to people and goes, "Barbecue ticket, barbecue ticket, barbecue ticket,"
Yeah.
and he hands out all the business
Right.
cards. And then people keep turning up at my tent going, "Hey, some kid gave me a ticket for some barbecue." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, we're not actually allowed to do that." He just grabs the cards and disappears. I'm really sorry about that. So it's actually led to some pretty awkward conversations.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know how it goes. But, yeah, it's good. Mate, I got to tell you, I stuffed up the beef at Creekside and it was all going wrong. You know, it kind of really put me off. And, you know, obviously fatigue plays a big game at the end of it when you're trying to box up, and it didn't really help that the beef was playing up, and when the 3-year-old daughter sort of came up and, "What's wrong, Dad? What's wrong?" I thought, I said, "Look, nothing's wrong, you know, like at the end of the day, it's only barbecue, you know, she's more important." So yeah, it was really nice having him there from that perspective, because she just kind of reminded me that it's not life and death here. You know, there's me sweating it down to the wire, you know. And so, yeah, that was good from that perspective. I was happy to have her there for that, for sure.
Yeah, it's a good learning experience for them too. All right, so your team of 4, how long had you been competing together?
No, we just came together. We were sort of smoking. There was originally like 3 of us in the country, and we were sort of smoking stuff up pretty regularly. And it was just kind of, we were just doing it socially, getting together and having a few beers and, just cooking whatever was there, really. You know, like we used to get what we call dinosaur ribs. These huge beef ribs. They weren't like the beef shorties or anything, though. There was very little meat on them, but they were, you know, some of them about like 10 inches long. But they were great. And so we'd smoke them up. And I just kind of said to those guys, like, well, what do you reckon? Let's just have a crack. Like, why not? You know? And I think for them originally, it was more about just having a holiday. You know, I think the order was obviously party, you know, drink, socialise, barbecue, in that order probably. So, and that's kind of fair enough as well, because if you're asking someone to lay out $750 to go to a barbecue competition, it's got to be worth it for them, really. Yeah. And if they're not that interested in barbecue, then it is what it is. But, yeah, so it's just one of those things. But, originally we were mates, just, barbecuing stuff, and thought we'd have a go. And that's how it all sort of came about, really.
Okay, so what tips would you have for new competitors looking to put a team together? So I guess what I'm asking for is what should new competitors look for in a teammate?
I think in reality, you've got to be real mates, because you've got to have the ability to offer your teammates constructive criticism without there being confrontation, because food is a very, very touchy area, and a lot of people take a lot of pride in their food. And I think, as the pit boss as such, which if you're looking to form a team and looking for team members, that's what you are. As the pit boss, if you can't turn around and go, no, I don't like that sauce, or that's too hot, or, whatever, without there being problems, then there is issues. So I'd say first and foremost, make sure they're very, very good friends, because definitely your friendship will be tested, especially when you're talking about staying awake for long periods of time, when there's alcohol involved, when there's stress, pressure, all of that kind of stuff. So, you want to make sure if you are putting together a team that they're good mates, for sure.
Awesome advice there. My own team, Smoking Hot Confessions, has a different makeup every time we compete. The upside of this is that I maintain full creative control of the team, but the downside is that I often compete with team members that are not as experienced as myself. Do you recommend that people form a team of regular team members, or be more flexible and have a bit of a gypsy team?
I guess it depends what you're going into barbecue competitions for. You know, if you're dead serious and you want to win, then there's really no difference in barbecue competitions to footy or cricket or anything like that. So, you know, your team's got to be well oiled and fully functional to get the results. However, if you're just going to have a crack, bit of a social thing, you know, as I mentioned before, potentially treat it as a holiday as well for the family, things like that, then the whole gypsy team thing is not particularly relevant. But if you want to win, I definitely wouldn't go with gypsy members. I'd definitely go with a crew that you know, a crew that you can work with, and, you know, that are a well-oiled unit that can operate well. And if you do that, you know, there should be no reason why you're not winning, realistically. I mean, from what I can see, looking from the outside in, certainly the top crews in Australia, they seem to have a mutual understanding, and they seem to work well as teams. So it's definitely important, you know, that everyone is serious about it. It's a huge commitment, as we discussed earlier. So
yeah, for sure.
Gypsies don't necessarily have the commitment that, you know, that the pit boss does.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So, in your opinion, should team members specialise or generalise? So by that I mean, should everybody cross-train in all meats and all skills, or do you reckon some certain team members become experts in certain areas, and why?
No, I think if you've got a team, you know, all the team members should be cross-training as such, predominantly from a creative perspective. I think, you know, you can be sort of you have your blinkers on as such if you're just cooking one thing the whole time. And obviously everyone's got a little different spin. You are cooking barbecue effectively for the general public who are judging. So you've got to produce a product that is acceptable to everyone and not offensive to anyone. So in saying that, yeah, I think everyone should cross-train, and that way it keeps everyone honest. If you've just got one guy on beef knocking out beef, there's no innovation really there. And I think in the current, you know, where we're at in Australia with barbecue competitions at the moment, there's a lot of innovation. So you really need to stay sharp from that perspective. So I think if everyone cross-trains, it'll keep everyone honest. So and it doesn't hurt to have, you know, if you're there to win, it doesn't really matter who makes the better sauce or who makes a better rub or whatever. You know, like if you're there to win, it's sauces. Again, it doesn't matter who on your team made it, as long as it's a team product and the team's winning.
How often should team members get together and practice? Should team members practice under competition conditions, or is that taking things a bit too far?
Yeah, I don't think you really need to practice under sort of team conditions as such. I would say you need to practice the team recipe, because in saying that, you know, that's what you're putting in, that's what you're handing in. You want to make sure that on the day, you know, you can do it blindfolded. You don't want to sort of be rocking up and, oh, what about this, what about that? You know, you just want to rock up, do your thing, keep it simple and crack on. So I don't think necessarily practicing under like timed conditions is necessary. I think practicing, the box hand in is good, and practicing as well appearance of your box is also good, because you know, there's several variables when you're doing that. If you know what cut you're doing, et cetera, you know, different presentation styles. So it's good to have one on the day, because you don't want to be there with like 5 minutes, whatever, left to go, thinking, how am I going to present this box? You want to basically get it, whack it in there, get it to the judges, know exactly what you're doing. As far as practicing together as a team, I mean, yeah, why not? Like, effectively, if your team are your mates, there's nothing wrong with getting together and, you know, and cooking up some barbecue with your mates and call it practice if you want. But yeah, again, I would expect if you're good mates and you're on a team, you're doing that at any rate. You cook. So I just say if anyone wanted any real advice who hadn't, cooked in competitions before, and they'll cook, let's say, for argument's sake, ribs. As you know, ribs vary in cook times and temps. Say pork ribs, for example, some of the ribs we get in Australia, they might not hold out to the full 3-2-1 method. So you need to really understand the size of your ribs and whether they're going to make it through like 6 hours of smoking. And if your recipe says, I'm going to do I do baby backs, that's my thing, and there's not much meat on them, and I think I can sort of pump them out in 5 hours to temp correctly, then in reality, all you have to do is work 5 hours back from your hand in time. That's all you have to do. I've seen very experienced competitors, obviously, as you know, you've probably seen it yourself. You go around their tents and they've got schedules, and some people got notebooks. They write it all down, work backward. This is what time I've got to prep the brisket, et cetera, all the way through. So the only sort of thing I take away from practicing is know your cook time. If it's your first go at a competition, just know your cook time and work back from there. That's probably the easiest thing to do. And write it down, because when fatigue kicks in, you'll forget all of that.
Very nice, very nice. So my next question then is about logistics. So earlier I explained the way my team works, which means that all the gear is mine, lives at my house, and it's essentially my responsibility to move it from place to place. How do you recommend competitors divvy up the storage and transportation of gear?
Yeah, that's a tough one, really. I mean, yeah, look, the way I worked it originally was I would basically absorb all the costs of everything. And we took across Mates Weber and one, I think it was actually two of my offsets. Yeah, 2 of my offsets. And so we're using my barbecue and smokers and his Weber, stuff like that. But as far as the travel expenses and petrol and cost of purchasing meat and supplies and everything else that goes along with it, we would split it down the line, basically. So yeah. And again, that would fall back on me. I'd pay for everything and then I'd get the money off of them later. So, but I don't know how people work it out. It's a tough call, really. If you've got your gypsy team, what do you do? If you've got the serious committed team of 4, everyone's in it for the same reason, they want to win, then no one's really fussed about the expense. But if you've got the gypsy team, you can't exactly turn around and go, that'll be, from Tasmania, that'll be $750 per team member. And they were just there to, have a drink and have a bit of a laugh, or, if they're a gypsy and they're from the area in which you're competing in and they're not necessarily responsible for the bulk of the travel costs related to getting there, that could be another variable. But, look, it falls back on what I said before. If I was to give you any advice, have, good friends as your team members, and obviously have everyone, preferably if everyone's committed to the same level, then the financial thing shouldn't really be an issue.
This segment is proudly sponsored by Coastline Barbecues and Heating. With stores in Oxenford, Southport and the Tweed, they are the Gold Coast's only Weber specialist.
Alrighty, Rohan, it's time to move on now to our listener questions. Matt is here with us today, and I've got 4 other questions that have been sent in. Unfortunately, they couldn't make it today. So I'll read them out first, and then we'll jump on over to Matt. And then at the end of that, you'll pick which one you think is the best, and they will win our sponsored gift voucher prize from Coastline Barbecues. So the first question is from Alan. Alan wants to know, how difficult is it to plan and coordinate to get yourself to comps, and how many days do you need to add on extra just for travel?
Very difficult in reality. I think normally the format is I could probably spend, I guess, kind of like a day, just making sure everything's in order as far as, travel tickets and all the breakdown of the competition you're going to, and have you got all the equipment and all of that. And then there's probably another day or so packing all that stuff up onto the ute, making sure the barbecues are clean. Because when we come back, we've got customs to come through from Tasmania. So, making sure all the things are easily accessible. When we cross the boat, for example, we have to declare the axe and the tomahawk because they're weapons. Well, not weapons, but they're tools, but can be perceived as weapons. So we've got to declare them and make sure they're easily accessible. We've got to make sure that the Cambros are accessible as well, because sometimes we bring our meat across with us. And so we've got to pack the ute in a specific way to make sure that all of that stuff, you can get to it. And like the Cambros, we've got to top them up with ice depending on how far we go, et cetera, et cetera. And you can't be sort of unpacking the ute just to get to them. So yeah, it's really difficult. And then it's probably another day by the time we sort of pick up in the old team format, as far as the 4-guy format, go and pick up all the guys and then drive to Devonport. That's probably easily another day out there. And then it's overnight on the boat. And depending on where the competition is, is virtually will take you out for another day. So, yeah, more or less, I guess, like coming from Tasmania, we've probably got about sort of 3 days, probably either side of a competition. So, yeah.
Wow. So 3 days either side. So you got 3 days lead up, maybe 2 days at the competition and then 3 days home again. So like 8 days to do one comp.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what we just did Creekside and we flew over for that. And that was seven days. I think we left on the Wednesday and came back on the Tuesday, or more or less 7 days. So, yeah.
Wow. So can I ask what you do for work? Like, how do you get the time off work to be able to spend so much time on going to barbecue competitions?
Builder. And at the moment, I've actually been a bit slack. Company down in Hobart, pretty much because the money's good and it's not too difficult work. So yeah, I just pick it up and take it, really. And then the rest of the time, is spent on the farm. There's a lot of stuff to do here. So between that, the farm, the kids, and the shop. Yeah, it's pretty hectic at the moment.
And one other question that I had, I just picked up off something that you said. You said you have to go through customs.
Yeah, that's fun.
Even though Tasmania is a state of Australia, you've still got to go through customs as if it was an international visit. Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much on the way out. They'll check you for, obviously, anything illegal. If you've got firearms, et cetera, you got to declare them. There's a lot of people who go back and forth to Tasmania who've got firearms. Coming back from the mainland, we get checked for food because we can't take the bulk of the food products, which you can imagine for us is a nightmare because we've got 2 offsets stinking of meat. And last time we went through, the last 2 times, I was just kind of that over it because we wrap everything up in a tarp, of course. If we're traveling, we don't want everything to get wet. And the tarp is usually, and all the equipment is usually held down by, 4 to 6 ratchet straps. So we pulled up at customs coming out of Melbourne this one time, and there was about 10 cars behind us. And this one guy was walking around the ute. You got any fish? You got any firearms? This, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, no, mate, nah. I've just got the tomahawk and the axe. And, okay, you got to declare them, fair enough. And he's going, you're going to have to take all the tarps and the rat. I'm going to have to look through your stuff. And I looked at the queue of people. I turned around to him and I said, mate, if you want me to do that, we're going to be here for a better part of 3/4 of an hour. And I said, you really want to do that with that queue of traffic behind you? And he looked at the queue and he went, right, mate, get going, So yeah, because it's painful. And then when we came back the last time, it was the same thing. Like the guy could clearly see the offsets, see the Cambros, see that we basically had, like I sold him on the idea it was just camping gear. And when he was asking what all the sort of food stuff was, I said we were travelling barmen. We go over and do cocktail shows on mainland. This is all relative to no food, mate, no food stuff, nothing relative to food at all. It's just all alcohol related. We camp out, that's why the camping gear's there. So, we do travelling shows. Oh, yeah, go, great, fellas. Off you go. Perfect. The last thing you need, I'm telling you, after you've been in the mainland and you've done a competition and you're absolutely exhausted is unpacking your ute and repacking it at the wharf. That is the last thing you want. So yeah, it is what it is. It's what we do.
Has that ever actually happened where you've had to unpack everything at customs and then pack it all back on and then keep going?
Oh, not so much as unpack, because we keep the Cambros like easily accessible, like the way we pack the ute. Yeah, and man, technically, they could actually make me take the offsets off and pressure wash them before taking them back to Tasmania. And I probably shouldn't be saying all of this stuff because now I'm going to be on the radar for them next time I'm coming back. But yeah, technically, they can actually make me take the offsets off and clean them before bringing them back to Tasmania, which is why I did the whole story, because I needed that particular fish, firearms, weapons, any produce, and I'm like, nope. And then he'd go fish, firearms, weapons, any produce, and I'm like, I just answered this question, man. No, fish, fire. I'm going, Jesus, So when he started asking questions about what was in the ute, I was just like, yep. We've got to make this guy think the exact opposite of what we've been doing, because he's going to kill me. He's just going to make me take all this stuff off and check it all out. So I told him we were barman.
I'm a bit concerned that you said that so many people are trying to bring firearms into Tasmania. Is that for hunting? Like, is hunting a big thing in Tasmania?
Yeah, of course.
What do they hunt?
Everything. Deer. Wallaby, if you got the appropriate licenses, you can shoot whatever you like, really.
That's a great tourism slogan. Come to Tasmania, shoot what you like.
Well, you got to have the appropriate license, and there's seasons, like deer hunting is very popular in Tasmania, and from what I gather, the population is over its average, so I don't think it's a problem shooting too many deers. And I know from living on the farm, you could kill 100 wallabies a day and it wouldn't be a problem at all. So, but I think off the top of my head, a couple of them, I think one particular breed of, I think it's actually a kangaroo, the eastern grey. I think you're not allowed to shoot that at all, as far as I can remember. And I still think you have to have a permit to shoot wallabies and that. But on the whole, yeah, it's the done thing, definitely down here. I know lots of people that hunt regularly. And if I had the time and I didn't have two small kids, I'd be going with them. But I just haven't got the time to be doing it.
Well, I'm glad to hear it's not the greatest game anyway. All right. So the next question comes from Brett. How did you and your teammates come together?
Yeah, we kind of covered that. We were mates.
Yeah, we did already, didn't we? Yeah.
Smoking up stuff, cracking on. Yeah.
All righty, we'll move on to Jay's question. What's been your favourite competition so far, and what's something about Australian barbecue right now that you think could be improved?
I think favourite competition would be Creekside, probably. And it probably would have been actually the first Creekside we did, because we've done the two. And I just say that because there was a certain aura about, first time at a barbecue competition. And man, I tell you, like, I was actually sitting there the other day, and for some reason, like, I've got a pretty decent memory. And I remember walking up my smoker's alley, or what I call it, at Creekside in year one. And opposite me was Greg from the Pitbulls, and on the other side was Southern Boys Barbecue. And as you walk up the road, I'm pretty sure on the opposite side of them was Smoking Gun Barbecue, which are now Regulators. And then you had Dave from Hector's Smokehouse there, and you had Darren from Rub One Out, and he was originally just there with his son. And then it got a bit more serious as you got up the line. There was the Aussie Pitmaster boys there, and Craig from Suck Knuckle Smokers, he was there as well. And up the end, Boulevard Barbecue and Meat Sweats and Texas. I think that was probably the whole run of the teams, just picturing the walk. And it's just crazy to see where those teams have gone from there a year ago. And so like that was probably my most favourite event, because a lot of us were in our first year smoking. I think it's fair to say that Greg from the Pitbulls, Rub On Out, I think Smoking Gun, Suck Knuckle, Smoking Joint, Hector Smokehouse, Notorious PIG were there as well, and I think that was their first comp as well. So there was like essentially 8 of the teams, or whatever, however many it was like first time barbecue comp. So yeah. Whereas this year when we went to Creekside, it was a lot bigger, and it was a lot more competitive. You know, there were some big names there, and there was obviously there was Craig taking the lead for the national points and all of that. So there was actually like pressure and stress for people, I guess, who was down to the wire. And for me, it was just a normal like weekend away with the kids where I was competing in a barbecue comp, because I haven't done 3. No, that was my first ABA comp of the year actually. So I wasn't going to make the 3 points, so it didn't really worry me. But definitely the first Creekside was the best for me. And what was the second half of that question again?
The second half of the question is, what's something that you'd like to see improved about Australian barbecue right now?
Well, that's a tough question. I think I'd probably like to see like us not following the Americans so much. And I think I don't really see much kind of, or hear much sort of banter orientated around an Australian style of low and slow anymore. I think originally, like when the movement was pushing on, a lot of people were kind of, let's establish some Australian flavour profiles, and we shouldn't just be sticking to to what the Americans do, whether you're rocking sort of sweet heat on your pork, or whether you're rocking Texas style brisket, just salt and pepper and this kind of stuff. I think there's a lot of I think the movement's kind of taken over, and that's kind of what we're sticking to. I know down in Tasmania, to give you an example, we have pepperberries, and that as an alternate to using cracked pepper on your Texas style brisket. Why can't we use and I do sometimes when they're available. They're a bit pricey, but whatever. But yeah, why can't you use pepperberries? I think that sort of that innovation it's still there, the innovation, but I seem to think we've sort of coming a little bit away from like making an Australian type low and slow. And if there is such a thing, and I guess the other variable orientated around that is, if it is, will it be as good as the American style? Because they've been at it for a long time, and I guess most of their recipes, the sauces, the rubs, all of this kind of stuff, they've got it pretty much down pat. But I'd still like to see local products being used, and whether it be sauces or produce itself, I'd still like to see some kind of level of Australian influence in what we do. Hence, Australian top. I definitely think, we should be establishing our own flavour profiles by using our own produce, what we produce in Australia.
Awesome. All right, Anna would like to ask, have you noticed if there are favourite cuts or particular presentation box styles from state to state?
I don't know about state to state as such, because it's hard to tell. You enter a competition and you don't necessarily see what everyone handed in unless you were judging. So I don't necessarily know if there's a difference state to state. I can definitely say that per protein as such, there's a difference. Like lamb is the obvious one, which people find controversial, for want of a better word. But in saying that, do you do the old, pulled lamb or the cutlets, the old reverse cutlets, etc., etc.? Because there's obviously arguments that cutlets aren't necessarily low and slow. They might be hot and fast or whatever, done over the grill. So I think, but in saying that, cutlets have a tendency to do well in comps. So that's why people kind of opt for them. And like chicken, for example, chicken in itself, do you do wings, lollipop, drums, or thighs, et cetera, et cetera. I think people tend to do the thighs because as a consumer, they're probably more acceptable to eat than wings, for example. So I'd say that's probably why competition barbecue teams themselves stick to specific cuts, because the likelihood is it's going to get the best results. And I found that. I did wings at Creekside and came 17th, and and I thought they were pretty good. But to be honest, I didn't put much effort into them. I actually did the wings we serve at the shop. I just wanted to see how they'd go at a competition, how they'd fare. So I was pretty happy with 17th. But what was it again? Sorry, mate, I keep forgetting these two-pronged questions. What was the second half of that one?
No, I think you hit both of them. Because you answered the second part first, talking about the boxes and the fact that you don't see them at competitions unless you're judging. But the important point there to make just on top of that as well is that even if you are judging, you don't know whose boxes you've got anyway. So
exactly.
Being able to pin down a particular style of box from state to state, you wouldn't know.
No.
All right, well then I'll throw the mic over to Matthew now, and it's his turn to put you on the grill.
Awesome.
All right, thanks for joining us today, and again, Ben, thanks for you for letting me have this opportunity.
You're not getting the discount coupon.
So, look, mate, coming from Tasmania, and like I understand that some of the best produce in the world comes from Tasmania. How do you see the Australian barbecue scene and its popularity and the fact that we're gaining attention overseas as well? How do you see that impacting on local Australian produce and our ability to showcase it to the world?
Yeah, that's a very, very, very big question. And it's kind of difficult because, to begin with, the bulk of our, we'll say beef, for example, actually goes to the mainland straight away. And I think in the early days when I was actually pricing up briskets, we were actually paying more for I won't mention brand names, but we were actually paying more for Tasmanian beef than you guys on the mainland were. And that's simple economics, isn't it? Demand and supply. So, and then you've got like little smaller producers who just distribute locally, and there's enough to sort of, or maybe sort of ancillary to their core business. For example, dairy producers might be producing dairy milk and then selling, cattle to butchers just locally. And I'll give you a bit of an inside tip here. Where we live in the country, the average beast is broken for about $5.50 a kilo. So if you want to figure out what you pay for beef at the moment, that's the margins, what they're making. And so in saying that, that's pretty standard across the board. So it's having an impact. What we do is most definitely having an impact on prices, because again, it's the demand and supply. And when you think, I don't know, what do you pay up in Queensland for a brisket?
So I suppose for a Tasmanian one, I'll probably pay up to $15, $16, even up to $18 a kilo.
Yeah.
For a local one, I'll normally pay somewhere between, well, it depends. Costco's like $8. But if I go to the local butchers and stuff, I'll generally pay about between 10 and 13.
Yeah, right. Yeah, which is pretty much what I'm getting it for. I get the briskets for $10 a kilo. So, but yeah. So again, like it's the bulk of the produce is actually going out of Tasmania straight away before we even see it. So there's actually farms down here that breed Wagyu, and it doesn't even reach the Australian market. It goes straight to Japan. Not none of it at all. And they got a massive operation with like boom gates and everything. You just can't get near them. So, but I think the problem of getting sort of regional producers all together, I think that's like Australia-wide in reality, And I did see recently, actually, there's a digital farmers network coming online where the butchers are going to have the ability to sell direct to the consumer. So I think, portals like that effectively are what's going to drive, Australian produce to the marketplace. If it's got to go through multiple sets of hands and, middlemen are just hitting up fees and all of that, then really it's just going to get distributed. But I did also see somewhere, I wasn't on that latest TV, I won't mention any names or anything, but that latest TV show, they were saying that on average, the average Australian eats something like 90 kilograms of barbecue a year, and we're second only to America. So it looks like we're potentially eating most of what we produce here as well. So yeah, but no, look, man, I think, I think it's definitely like we've got to try and get the small beef producers and the quality to market, because you reach that certain point where if it's impossible to compete with the big guys, their purchasing power and their money, it's you just can't compete with them. And in saying that, that's why we had a sponsor early in the piece. And they produce Angus up the north of Tasmania, and they just point blank will not sell it under $17 a kilo. That's it. You just can't buy it. That's their, even wholesale. Forget about it. It's just $17 a kilo, and it's 20. It's usually aged, fair enough. But even in saying that, I can get like low grade Wagyu for that price.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But hey, look, not being a hater, you got to do what you got to do to keep your business going. And if all they want to do is distribute to the local market at a premium price, that's their thing. That's good. But yeah, no, I definitely think buy local, go see your butcher, and just don't support the supermarkets. Sorry. Does that answer your question, mate?
Yes, mate. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, perfect.
Alrighty, so I'll just recap on those on what all those questions were before I ask you to pick the winner. So we had Alan with his question about planning and coordinating your trips to comps. We had Brett with his question about the origins of your team. Jay's question about the favourite comps and something that could be improved in the Australian scene. And Anna's question was about the cuts and style boxes from state to state. And then that was the last question on the end there about the Tasmanian produce. So where would you put that Coastline Barbecues gift voucher, mate?
Yeah, look at that. He's the only one that turned up.
All righty, congratulations, Matt. You've just got a gift voucher.
Thanks, guys.
You're welcome. All righty, Rohan, just before I let you go, mate, we've got two more things we need to do. My final question for you today is, if you had 3 pieces of advice for first-time competition barbecue teams, what would they be?
I think number 1 would be increase your credit card limit, because it gets expensive. Number 2 would be, I guess, at the moment where we're at in competition barbecue is, I'd say first off, if you're interested in it, go to a competition that's not too far away and have a crack and see what you think, because there is a massive commitment financially, physically, logistically, it doesn't matter where you're coming from, what you're doing, how you're getting there. You're basically going to a destination and setting up what is a temporary food business according to the local council. So just test the waters at first and see if you really want to do it, and if it is your thing before you necessarily even commit to a full team, just grab your mates, go down and have a crack. And then after all is said and done, see if it's something you want to persist with, because, it's becoming the scene in Australia at the moment. The barbecue competition scene is blowing up. Correct me if I'm wrong, you probably know better than me, Ben, but there's 27 competitions already listed for 2017.
There's 25 already confirmed for 2017, but I was just talking to Adam yesterday and he's predicting 30 by the end of the year.
So there's a lot of competitions, which means if you're actually wanting to, be on the circuit and be a threat for the national title and clock up your 3 sets of points and or compete in more so as to accumulate better scores, then you better be committed, and you better have the money, and you better have the time, because it's a lengthy process. And I guess number 3 would be, if you're going to take a team, relative to what we were discussing before, probably advise against the gypsy lineup as far as just, ringers as such, and bring your best game, because the quality of competition barbecue at the moment is just top notch. You've got the double barrel dudes with Barbecue Mafia coming first international overseas, and you got Craig from Suck Knuckle and Grant from Smoking Joint going over to America and in that Weber comp and beating the Americans. People are turning out top quality barbecue, and a lot of these guys are ex-chefs, by the way, which I didn't know, which was pretty interesting. And I was having, Craig from Suck Knuckle Smokers, I was having a chat to him at Creekside recently. It was pretty funny. And I said, Craig, what did you do before this barbecue malarkey? And he said, I was a chef for 14 years. I went, okay. And he go, what about you, Ron? What do you do? I go, I'm a builder. Yeah. So come have a crack first off. If you like it and you want to make the commitment and you're pretty confident that you can compete, at that level, if that's what you're interested in, get together a well-oiled team and just go for it.
Very nice. Thank you very much. All right. The last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to hand the mic over to you for a couple of minutes. Give any shout outs that you'd like to do, and tell people where they can track you down on the interwebs.
Yeah, well, I guess I got a shout out to our sort of key sponsors, smokedandcured.com.au. They help us out and have done since day one. And they're on the mainland, which is awesome for us. They're in Melbourne, which means that by the time we get off the boat, we usually go over to see them, get our wood, whatever, and crack on to the comps. But they've been massively, massively supportive, as have Walkabout 4-Wheel Drive in Hobart. Justin and his crew down there have been just, again, since day one. Who else have we got? Hunter's Cleaning Products in Tasmania. They've been a massive supporter of us, and I'm thankful because they got this great product. It's called Zap, and it's awesome for cleaning your barbecues. So, when you've got as many offsets as I've got, you need sponsors like that. So, they're great guys. Who else is there? Rowan and Anna Clark from Rupertswood Farm. They're our lamb sponsors. Bram's Mobile Butcher. We got a lot of greats. The Tasmanian Honey Co. company producing. We use that on all our ribs. It's great stuff. So it's just to everyone really. We appreciate the support we get, and we hope to be pushing the movement along down in Tasmania as much as possible and getting some traction down here. And hopefully a couple of you fellas from up north will come down and compete in our comps and give us a run for our money.
Sounds good to me. And where can people track you down on the internet, mate?
Rohanslowbbq.com.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, thank you very much for your time today, Rohan. You've given us lots to think about and lots of lessons and advice in there. So it's a big thank you from me, and I will say thank you on behalf of all the listeners as well.
No worries, mate. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Smoking Hot Confessions podcast. Head on over to smokinghotconfessions.com for recipes, tips, and Ben's own confessions.